Marco Holt is going to be on the pole position for this one. Alongside him, it'll be the hard-charging Wilson Dilks, then Blake Wilson and Harrison Day, Travis Shaw and David Wilton. From Izzy Carter, John Pitcher, Scott Dermott is going to be alongside Rupert White on the final row of the top 10. Tricky battles so far for Henry McCartney and Jensen Bishop. They find themselves down at the very back of the grid after some problems earlier on in the weekend. How much progress can they make? Let's race at Rowrah. Great start from Holt. Not a brilliant start from Wilson Dilks, I have to say. And that's going to be Wilson charging through in a second. Yeah, poor start there for Wilson Dilks. He seemed to get bogged down at the start. Holt came off the line like a scolded cat, and he's got the lead. And if you're Blake Wilson or Wilson Dilks, you don't want to see Marco Holt out front clearing off, because he's been quick all weekend and he's already starting to gap them. And once Marco Holt has a bit of space, he's very hard to pin down as well. So they work their way through the hairpin again at the top of the Stewart S's. Not the S's, of course, this weekend. It's the Stewart hairpin on this occasion. Work their way through the right and then up to St John's. Well, good work from Blake Wilson so far. He's at least keeping the race leader, Marco Holt, honest at the moment. Travis Shaw doing a fair job at the moment on the number 4 bike, just holding on to 4th position at the moment. And this is his local race, don't forget. He's only down the road from here, based in Barrow-in-Furness. So this is an opportunity for him to do well on his home turf. Yeah, he'll have done plenty of racing and practicing here, I'm sure. That's the battle further back there. There are groups of seniors. I think David Wilton is the leading senior at the moment. There are some senior riders in amongst the juniors in this class. But they definitely know how to give these guys the proper education. There's not many forms of motorsport where you'd have the juniors in with the seniors. In bikes, it's a little bit easier to organise these things and keep it nice and safe. But these guys are prepared and they are ready to ride at the absolute limit. Don't forget that on this circuit, in these MiniGP 190 bikes, you can get lap times in around 51, 52 seconds, battling away. That's a change for position, isn't it? That's Harrison Day having worked his way ahead now. Oh, and off! Izzy Carter, that is. There you go. That's the confirmation. So easily done in Sunny as well. You lean very far into the radius of the corner there, and unfortunately Izzy Carter collapses mid-apex. And that is very much done and dusted for her charge in this particular race battle. So it's all gone very badly wrong for her down the inside. That's a very tricky move to negotiate in McRae's, but it has worked. And I think that was Pitcher on Wilton, wasn't it, in the battle for the senior race? Yeah, could be, could be. This is the battle for the lead, though, Marco Holt. Now, Holt, Wilson, Blake Wilson, that is, and then Wilson Dilks had a great battle at Teesside at round 1, Jake, if you remember. Fantastic to see Izzy Carter, bike being pushed away by the marshal there in the background. She trudges away. She will not be happy with that, and neither will her 100,000 plus Instagram followers. Yeah, very unfortunate for Izzy Carter. She looks very dejected there, looking a bit like a Thunderbird's puppet with the strings cut, unfortunately. Very unfortunate for her, but let's see if she can pick it up and get it back together again for race 3 later on. Marco Holt, Blake Wilson and Wilson Dilks in the top 3 at the moment. This is for 6th place. We come back to this battle between Pitcher, Wilton and Dermott. Now David Wilton, goodness me, he's had a trek to get up here, all the way up from Great Yarmouth in East Anglia. That's a trip. That is a trip, so hopefully it's going to be worth it for him. Certainly battling away for the senior podium at the moment, though. Out in front, Marco Holt has broken into the 48s. Goodness me, he is lapping very quickly around this Rowrah circuit. And now a 48.7 comes in from Marco Holt. Has Blake Wilson got anything left in the tank to keep up with that? He's about half a second to 0.6 of a second away from it per lap at the moment. That just shows you how authoritarian Marco Holt's ride currently is. This is the battle for 6th place. It's Pitcher now in 6th from David Wilton and Scott Dermott. More racing coming after the break. Two leading battles in one race at the moment. Marco Holt still trying to shake off the attentions of Blake Wilson, whilst John Pitcher is holding station ahead of David Wilton and Scott Dermott in the senior battle. For 3rd, Wilson Dilks has got a bit of space now on Harrison Day, who has completely checked out on Travis Shaw. Great work from Harrison Day in this one to really pick up the pieces after a difficult start. Got held up initially by Travis Shaw, but has definitely worked his way into a solid position now for P4. And in terms of lap times, Wilson Dilks is actually struggling to cope with the pressure of Harrison. So I think Day may even get a chance of a late podium charge here. But out in front, Marco Holt, he doesn't have a massive lead. It's 2.3 seconds. But on a circuit like this one, 2.3 is all you really need.
We're looking now from the drone at the battle for 7th and 8th place. That's Wilton and Dermot. John Pitcher now getting away. That is Pitcher as he goes through the line. So he's got a comfortable lead here in the, well, effectively the senior race, if you like, the 3 seniors. There they are.
And it's a decent enough bit of daylight that he can really push himself into a good position out front. Now, here's Blake Wilson, really starting to get into his stride now. His lap times are improving. Just watch the confidence, look at the stance. Once the tyres are up to temperature, and you can really start to figure out where you can lean in, where you can really pinch that throttle a little bit earlier in each corner. It's wonderful seeing these riders in full chat, really starting to open up the taps. He's keeping Marco Holt fairly honest compared to his other opponents out there. They've dropped a good 30 seconds back by comparison, so only Blake Wilson can really hang on in there with Marco Holt. It's wonderful to watch him as they go into the last lap, and he's looking really comfortable in his stride now, trying to hold on. And Marco Holt out in front has a decent lead, but all it takes is one mistake and this race changes like that. And we know from old that mistakes can happen even as late as the last lap.
Yeah, this is a battle for 3rd and 4th. And talking about mistakes, if they crash in this championship, Jake, there are no dropped scores. You don't have a bad round during the year, as is the case in a lot of motorsport, and you can drop the worst score. If you crash, not only can you not drop your worst score, but you actually don't score any points.
Well, no problems like that today for Marco Holt as he gets up the inside of Rupert White to put a lap on him right at the end of the race there. And fabulous run from Marco Holt as he rides perfectly ahead of Blake Wilson to the checkered flag. John Pitcher still looking good for the senior. Hang on a minute, that's Dermot. Dermot's got Wilton on the last lap. It's happened outside the view of the cameras, but that is definitely Scott Dermot. Now in 2nd position ahead of David Wilton, so he's nailed him on the last lap. What did I tell you? You just got to keep pushing. You don't know what's going to happen on the last lap. And that is a legitimate steal of 2nd place in senior for Scott Dermot ahead of David Wilton. So in junior, it's Marco Holt from Blake Wilson, with Wilson Dilks holding off Harrison Day and Travis Shaw. Pitcher gets the win in senior ahead of Dermot, who steals 2nd on the last lap from David Wilton, with Rupert White. Izzy Carter hoping to bounce back later on in race number 3. If you thought that you'd seen the best of Marco Holt, think again. We've got more great action for him in the official FIM MiniGP UK class. He's alongside Henry McCartney on the front row, Blake Wilson and Arnie Carr, then Jensen Bishop, Annabelle McCarthy, Marshall, Izzy Carter and Oliver Pitcher. Off we go, straight away to the first corner. And is this going to be a hard charge for Marco Holt? Well, he's certainly going to have a bit more pressure from McCartney, working their way through the first couple of corners. And as they work their way up to the hairpin, already that is a move from Blake Wilson to get into 2nd position. But can he hold it on the exit? He's just managed to hold Henry McCartney there as they come up to Iredale's. McCartney having another go for the inside, has to bail out of it. Oh, that was properly close in the hunt for 2nd position on the first lap. And now Arnie Carr is looking like he's going to be threatening for 3rd position. McCartney's going to have to watch his back as they work their way out of Stewart and up towards Sunny Bend they will go through St John's. Annabelle McCarthy doing a fair job in the first part of the race as well, working her way forward. And it looks as though we're going to have a very tough battle for the top spot. McCartney not waiting around, making a big bid on the inside of Blake Wilson. Has he been able to get through into 2nd position? Side by side, almost clattering into each other. And that's McCartney through into 2nd place in front of Blake Wilson. Problems for Marco Holt of a point he can't really do anything about. His transponder isn't working at the moment, but McCartney is certainly through into 2nd ahead of Wilson, Carr and Jensen Bishop.
Yeah, we had this problem with Marco Holt's transponder in the first race. I'm assuming this is the same sort of bike. It's the same bike he's using. It's still got the same transponder issue, look, unfortunately, but he's definitely leading there, Jake.
But not by much. Look, McCartney and Wilson are not letting Holt get away this time. Marco Holt had all his own way in the previous 190 race, but this is absolutely astonishing, and the fastest rider out there at the moment is Blake Wilson at 51.52, and he's definitely challenging McCartney. Jensen Bishop's doing a fair ride as well. 5th position for him currently behind Arnie Carr, having got past Annabelle McCarthy and Izzy Carter. But this is very tough stuff indeed as they work their way forward.
McCartney sets the fastest lap on that tour. Marco Holt's transponder worked as he went through the line that time, so all the 9 riders in this one are listed on the left of your screen.
Well, McCartney will have done the homework here and watched Marco Holt. Did you see how close he got to the rear wheel as they came through Iredale's? Absolutely charging. He was looking for a switchback manoeuvre there as they come out of Stewart, back on the throttle. Lean right, hug the curb on the left and then plough through St John's on the right side into Sunny Bend. And this is where the bike can really start to get away from you. The pressure cooker can really start to broil as well. It's going to be very interesting. Arnie Carr just dropping back a little bit. Jensen Bishop holding his nerve there in P5. A little bit of daylight, of course, between himself and McCarthy and Marshall further back, who's just got past Izzy Carter, by the way. Looks as though Oliver Pitcher's had a problem, already out of the race. Not entirely sure he even started it, sadly. But Marco Holt now gets back the fastest lap of the race, a 48.60 compared to Henry McCartney on a 48.74. They're trading fastest laps, dropping Blake Wilson, and this is where the grudge match between Marco and Henry is going to be absolutely fever pitch. Out through Stewart, back on the throttle again. Lean right, lean left, hug the apex. Marco Holt bringing in another decent lap the last time around, 48.59. He really is pushing this. He feels he's got everything he can possibly achieve here at the moment by holding Henry McCartney at bay. But McCartney has still got a few tricks up his sleeve. How close was that to the edge of the road for Wilson? Goodness me, Blake Wilson really trying to stretch it as well. But he's just not able to match the lap time pace of Holt and McCartney. They are still looking good for third position on the number 8 crew, but Holt and McCartney have got this race very much controlled out front. Has McCartney got anything left? Because Holt is starting slowly to stretch that gap away. Here's Blake Wilson further into the race, still in P3, just trying to hang on to Holt and McCartney. With those final few laps approaching, it's going to be tight though between McCartney and Holt. If Holt can just keep this sturdily going on through, and he's definitely matched the guy from Sevenoaks. Pushing hard, McCartney doing everything he possibly can, but Marco Holt definitely very much controlling the pace of this race, lapping Izzy Carter as they come up to the hairpin. Oh, hang on a minute, bit of engine braking perhaps from Marco Holt.
Yeah, well, his left leg definitely wasn't on the brake pedal, was it? So that had to be a bit of engine braking.
Shook his head as well.
Locked the rear up slightly, but no damage done, still running, and a comfortable lead here.
2.3 seconds clear of Henry McCartney. Has the man from Sevenoaks got anything left in this race? Into the last lap goes Marco Holt. He's managed to pull a decent enough gap over Henry McCartney to be fairly comfortable. 3.9 will do quite nicely, but you can tell that Marco Holt is still pushing within his own limits and trying a few different things out. We saw him engine braking a short while ago and shaking his head. He obviously felt he got it wrong, but fortunately he's got enough of a cushion to not let it be too much of a panic.
Yeah, comes down past Lakeside for the last time. Comfortable victory. We've already seen him win in the earlier race, and here he is. He's going to repeat, and he'll be in more races coming up in the next programme as well. This is race 2 of 3 of the weekend.
And of course, in the back of his mind, he's going to be very well aware that the first 2 riders in the standings of the FIA MiniGP UK title go on to the World Championships. That's what it means to Marco Holt to pick up a win in such a fashion as he has. Henry McCartney 4 seconds behind, unable really to keep up with him in the closing stages. Certainly gave him a great run in the initial part of the race though. Blake Wilson, another top 3 ride from him. He's definitely being very consistent over the course of the racing here. Arnie Carr doing his best to stay with him for as long as humanly possible. Jensen Bishop will secure P5 in front of Annabelle McCarthy and Sid Marshall. Izzy Carter finishing up in 8th position. Oliver Pitcher, as we saw earlier on, unable sadly to take the start. There's another chance for him in race 3, as there is for everybody else, but they're going to have to do something pretty special to harness Marco Holt, given the young rider's current unbeatable form here at Rowrah.